Hey guys, BrickMan117. Welcome back to the channel on part 3 of the ultimate longsword build. So if you caught part 2, you'll know this is where we left off last time. So my intentions for part 3 are I want to strengthen up the underneath of what I've built so far here for the cockpit area because it's just really flimsy at the moment. And I also want to do some work underneath while I can still dismantle this part relatively easily. Once I've done that, I want to put this bulkhead in here so I can incorporate some sort of function to be able to detach this from the main body of the aircraft for filming angles and so on. If I want to be able to film from here, I'm going to need to be able to detach this section so the camera can see in rather than it being permanently fixed to the rest of the aircraft. So I'll try and figure out how I can do that, and then once I've done those two things, we'll then move on to the interior, which hopefully will incorporate all of the side units that come along here. Obviously the seating area, the main screen in front of the seats here. So that's the plan now. I'm going to try and put as much detail in here as I can. I've got no idea how I'm going to do it at the moment, so I'm just going to start building and see how I get on. Okay guys, so as you can see there was a slight change of plan. When I went to start strengthening up the base of the cockpit and start working on the underneath, I realised that I was going to need to incorporate the front nose gear, the landing gear in there somehow, and without the landing gear I was a bit unsure as to how I was going to make that happen. So I decided to try and create the landing gear, messed around with it for quite some time. It's definitely yeah, it's a bit OTT, but I really like it. I've tried to use as many pieces as possible. We've got the siege bike frame down here, and then we've got the side gun seats from the Pelican gunship, and then these are the landing gear pieces from the short sword. And then I've just used generally lots of pieces and hoses just to try and make it look, I don't know, real. But I'm not an aircraft specialist or enthusiast, so it's all wrong, I'm sure. It's the actual landing gear, I think, is supposed to collapse in on itself halfway up and then fold it in underneath the cockpit. This won't be able to do any of that. May not even be able to take the actual weight of the finished MOC, but I'm pretty pleased with the look, so I'm going to keep that, and it means now that I can use that as a base to figure out where it needs to go underneath the frame. I'll try and pick this up. It's still a bit flimsy, but it will be something like that. Obviously the underneath of this is going to come down more, but it will be something like that when it's finished. So now that I've got that, I can figure out how to incorporate it into this under section so I can start working on the rest of it. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Okay guys, so that's as far as I'm going to go with the underneath for now. Basically it's giving me what I needed to do underneath to give me an idea of how it's going to go, get the angles right and so on. So I'm relatively satisfied with that. Pretty pleased with the landing gear. I think it's going to be okay. So what I can do now is, I'll probably do some more work on this at a later date, but for now I can simply take it apart like so. Take the landing gear off nice and easily. That's why I've just put a few studs on there so you can remove it easily. So if I don't want it on the landing gear, or I want to simulate flight mode without the landing gear, I'll take it off. I'm not going to be able to have folding landing gear. It's far too complicated, to be honest with you. It's not something I want to go that far with. So we can just take it off or put it back on. And then if I take this section off, that leaves me with a relatively flat base. I'll just take these bits off here, then I can flip it over and we can start working on the top. So let's see what that looks like. What I'm doing here is reconfiguring the back section of the cockpit just so it's nice and flat for when I come to connecting it to the main fuselage. I'm also redoing the way the side panels are attached to the base of the cockpit, because I want to be able to remove them for filming, but I need to be able to do that in a way that it maintains structural integrity so it doesn't just all fall apart when I remove either the roof or the side panel. So that's what I'm doing here in preparation for when I start installing the seating area. Also, I needed to do this because I want some of the terminals to be right where I'm working at the moment, so I need to know that I've got the structural side of it sorted before I start building up computers and things in front of it. And now that that's done, we can move on to the fun part, the interior. So as you can see, the seating area is done. It was an absolute nightmare. It took me ages and many rebuilds to come up with this final design that I then rebuilt for you and filmed so you could see how it goes together. There was things that I wanted. These tilting consoles, for example. Now, this is a good time to remind you that this is not a scale replica. This is a mock. So therefore, if things aren't exactly how you expect them, it's because I've taken a few creative liberties with designing it to basically suit my needs and what I wanted it to do. So fitting a little Master Chief figure in is a little bit fiddly, but he does go in there. He's not perfectly sat in for the purpose of this video, but I can assure you he does go in and he can hold on to the control stick and everything. That was a bit of a challenge. And then folding the computer consoles forward, like, I'm not sure if this is really canon or not, but I've seen it somewhere on the internet and I thought that was a super cool idea, how they can just fold down in front of the pilot and the co-pilot. I've tried to replicate where the consoles and the buttons and the lights are, but when you're working on such a small scale like this, it's really hard to get everything as it should be. And then this, I'm pretty sure isn't canon, but I couldn't resist. I just wanted to be able to put a little pedestal for Katana to be able to show herself in her holographic form, because to me it just adds loads to that little seating area. So regardless of whether you like that or not, that is definitely staying. I'm really pleased to be able to put that in the center of the console there. So overall, I am really pleased with how this seating area has turned out. It was a major challenge, but like I say, I am really happy with the end result. So now let's move on to the next bit. So in case it wasn't obvious, this is the display screen that sits in front of the pilot and co-pilot seat. This is just a view screen from the Infinity set. Now I wanted to put this in because when you see this screen in the game, in some shots it's got information displayed on the screen and other shots it hasn't. So I thought if I put this on this tilting bracket here, when you want it in display mode, it can be tilted up as so you can see all the telemetry from the aircraft or whatever's going on outside the aircraft. And if you want to see outside through the exterior window, which is actually in front of this display screen, you can just simply tilt this down and then you've still got a clear view outside the front of the aircraft while you're flying. So that was what I was trying to recreate there. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, then probably best to Google that and you'll see plenty of images. So this screen sits in front of the seats, just like so. One thing that was difficult whilst I was doing this was trying to make it all look how I wanted it to look, but it still has to fit in the confines of that very small cockpit area. So generally, I'm pretty pleased. I got the end result that I wanted to get. This little piece here is just a bit that will be stuck to the floor, which just finishes off the back of that seating area. So that's pretty much it for that area. All I need to do now is shoehorn it into that cockpit and show you guys what it looks like. Okay guys, so we're all finished now. I've finished the interior off camera because it was just getting a little bit tedious. So I've done both sides now. So I'm pretty pleased with the result. I'm not going to put on all the underside to show you it finished because it just has to come off again. So you'll see that at a later date. It's pretty dark in here, so I'm just going to pop the roof section off to let some more light in. There we go, you can see a lot more now. So as you can see, I've done both sides there. Lots of bits and bobs and different displays down either side. And you can see the view screen at the front. If you put that down and I just pop the roof section back on, you can then see right through front screen of the aircraft, so that's worked out pretty well. So if I take this roof section back off, I will just take the camera off the tripod and I'll show you from above. So you can see from this angle the view is becoming more and more obstructed by the side panels and the structural supports across the back. You can still see in, and I think you still get a good idea of how it's all worked out. I'm really pleased with it, to be honest with you. It was really difficult. It's taken me a long time. That's why you've had to wait a while for this video. So for such a small area, it's been incredibly time consuming. But that said, I think it was worth the wait. It's turned out as good as I think I could have hoped for. So I'm looking forward to moving on to another section of the aircraft now. I'm going to close out the video with a few shots of the Chief and Cortana interacting in the cockpit. But before I do that, I just want to remind any new viewers, if you want to see more of this content, don't forget to subscribe and like. It helps the channel grow. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Did anyone else make it?
Scanning. Just dust and echoes. We're all that's left.